Hey adventurers, so today is going to be the Midyear Book Freakout Tag. This is kind of one of those tags that everybody on BookTube does every year, so we're doing it as well. It's now past the middle of the year when we're filming this. Who knows when it'll go up, hopefully fairly soon.
We are going to do one quick disclaimer. We have the questions on our phone, and we're also going to be referencing our books read in 2022 on our phone so that we can come up with the best answers for you all. So if we're looking down, I promise we're not.
Alright, so question 1. What is the best book you have read so far in 2022?
Reference!
So I have two answers for this. One of them, they're both two drastically different genres, so that's why I'm allowing myself to. I will also not allow myself to use any books that are rereads for this question. The first one that I have was The Three Musketeers by Alexandre Dumas. I have really started to like Dumas as an author, and The Three Musketeers is a story that we all know, that we all love, and the book was just so good. And then the other book that I have for that is, oh, where did it go? You know what? Never mind. I was gonna say The Farthest Shore, but that's book 3 of a series, and I don't want to choose that book. I would have chosen the first one if that had been what I'd read.
So the one I chose is City of the Beasts by Isabel Allende. Scrolling through my list, this is the one that just stood out to me, and I'm like, oh, I love that book, so I chose that one.
Question 2. What is the best sequel you have read so far in 2020? For this one, I think that I'll actually go with Activated by Nova McBee. This is the third book in the Calculated series. I don't know that it's truly the best one that I read this year, but I like supporting smaller authors. So, and I really did quite enjoy this third book in the series, so that's the one that I will choose.
Oh, Fail State Legends by John Oddie. I really liked this one, and as far as the sequel goes, it followed really well. I did have another option, and that was The Story Raider by Lindsay A. Franklin. I actually liked that one better than the first book, I think.
Question 3. What is a new release that you haven't read yet but want to? I think for both of us, we don't really tend to follow new releases that much.
I would say The Wonderland Trials by Sarah Ella, but I think that one actually might have just been released. Either that or the ARCs just got sent out, and so that's what I'm seeing. But I also am really excited for Wistress by Nadine Brandes.
So then the two answers that I have,
which also isn't out.
Surprisingly, we both have answers this time. The two answers are both self-published books that I've seen around various Discords and BookTube channels, and that would be The Seventh Cadence by Jim Wilborn, which that cover is, I should have a picture here, but it's a massive blue dragon. It looks amazing. So it's a fantasy series, and the other one is A Touch of Light by Tiago Abdallah. This is another fantasy series. All I know is that it's got griffins, and that sold me on it. So I know a little bit more about it, but those are the two that I'm very excited for. I don't have them, so I haven't read them yet, but I would love to get them and read both of them. Question 4. What is your most anticipated release for the second half of the year?
Oh, I didn't know we needed a second answer for the same question, essentially.
Yeah.
Since I gave two answers before, I'm gonna apply that to this one.
And then for me, I think, again, I don't really follow new releases that much, but the answer would probably be The Lost Metal by Brandon Sanderson. This is book 4 of Mistborn Era 2. It's supposed to come out in like November or something like that, so that would be my answer for that one. Book 5 is biggest disappointment so far.
I think it's gonna be The Woman with the Blue Star by, oh, I've forgotten who it's by.
Pam JENOFF.
Pam JENOFF. I really disconnected with the way that it was written. The premise was incredible, and it was a great story to be told. It just was not written in a way that I liked at all, and it kind of ruined the book.
I've had a really good year this year, and the two books that I didn't particularly like, I didn't particularly expect to love. So the first one on that list would be Death on the Nile. So I watched the movie for Murder on the Orient Express back when it first came out, and I really loved the movie. Then I recently read the book, and I didn't care for the book as much. Then in preparation for the sequel to the movie, because I was hoping the movie would be really good, I read Death on the Nile book. And knowing that I didn't love the Murder on the Orient Express book made me think I probably wouldn't love Murder on the Orient or Death on the Nile book. This is confusing. So it was kind of, I didn't have terribly high expectations, and I still didn't love the book. So that would probably be my biggest disappointment. Question 6. What was your biggest surprising book so far?
What they mean? that we liked, books
Yeah,
that
book that
surprised us
surprised you
that
the
we
most.
liked. I think probably Mrs. Mike, just because I hadn't heard by Nancy and Benedict Friedman, just because I hadn't heard anything about it, and T said that I should read it for my assigned reading for last month, and I did, and I wasn't expecting to like it, and I was like, this is going to be a slow book, it's going to be boring, and then I really liked it.
I think my choice for this one is going to be Recorder by
Kathy
McCrum. This was a science fiction story. I genuinely didn't know if I was going to like it or not. I hadn't read a lot of science fiction. I hadn't read anything. This is her debut novel. She's a Christian author, which doesn't really mean that it's going to be bad. It's just oftentimes the writing by Christian authors I don't love as much. So I went into it not knowing what to expect from it and came out of it really enjoying what I read. Who is your favorite new author that can be a debut author or new to you?
Because you mentioned that, I'm going to say Kathy McCrum, because it was her debut novel and that was really good, and I'm excited for Aberration. I think
that's what it's called.
Oh, that's her new release.
Is that coming out this year?
I think so.
Yeah.
It should be.
I'm excited for that one too.
Yeah, that'll be exciting. I should follow her. So probably that one. I have started a couple new authors this year, but not enough that I think that I could. I don't think I love an author until I've read more than at least one book. Patrick Ness taught me that. He wrote one of my favorite books, and he also wrote a book that I detest. So
that's a really good choice for me too. I think I'll go with Kathy McCrum as well. It's just I think we were both really surprised and impressed by how well written that first book was. Question 8, who is your new fictional crush? Or, because lots of people on BookTube don't like this question, they've changed the question to add, or new favorite romance. I don't remember exactly who I saw first saw that changed this answer, or this question. I can't talk.
That's good. So last year I was trapped in this question. I thought I had to give an answer, so I did, and I never lived it down, but because the fact is that I can't think of a fictional crush I've had. So favorite romance.
Mrs. Mike?
Yeah, I'm gonna say Mrs. Mike. I still can't remember the main character's name. Kathy?
Mrs. Mike.
Kathy and Mike, so that was good.
Let me see. Find one.
I'm still mad at Kathy for what she did in response to Hard Time.
There's not a whole lot of romances in the books that I've been reading.
Or Brandon Sanderson usually has side subplots.
Yeah, but all the ones that would have them, I've already read. I've reread those books recently.
Oh.
So the only one that I really don't have a good answer for this. I guess in Gawain. So Gawain and I can't think of her name. Find out her name. I'll be right back. Gawain and Halwyn. That one, I think that's about the only new fictional romance that I have read that I am okay with. So, question 9. Who's your newest favorite character?
I'm reading a book called Lock and Key by Ridley Pearson, The Initiation. It's different from the Lock and Key I mentioned in my wrap-up video. And it's following James Moriarty, his sister, and that, because there's such a reveal in that first book that I don't want to say it. I really like these 3 characters. They're a lot of fun, and I'm so excited to see where they go in the book. I'm in the middle of it, so I don't know what's gonna happen, but just because I'm very drawn into the story right now. James Moriarty, his sister Moira, and then, sorry, that's a hard name for me to say, and then the other primary character, which if you've read this story, but I don't want to spoil it, because if anyone wants to read this story, it's really good. The way that it's revealed, I'm just excited about.
The answer that I have, and again, I don't remember what the character's name is. I should, but it's one of the 2 main characters from Gurzel. I wish I could remember his name. There's a story that's this character name, and it's this character's name, the Dragon Slayer, and I can't remember what the character's name is.
Gurzel?
No.
Oh.
Gurzel is the dragon.
Oh. Well, why would you like the Dragon Slayer then?
Because Gurzel is not a good dragon.
Oh.
He's a very cool dragon, but not
bad dragon.
Bad. Let me see if I can pull up his name real quick. Oh, George Bertilac. That's who it is. So the story is George the Giant Slayer, I believe, something like that. But the character's name is George Bertilac. So he's basically a young version of who will eventually go on to become the Green Knight in the Green Knight tale. It's a very cool retelling of the Arthurian myth, Gurzel, and that whole world that's being created by Anonymous there. So that's my answer, is George. Question 10, what books made you cry?
Okay, I have a suggestion. I think we should go through our whole book one by one. We don't have to list everything we read, but then we can make sure we can tick them all off, which you might not have very many, but can I say Dune?
Yeah.
And not because it was sad, but because I had COVID and I was really miserable while I was listening to the audiobook, and it was not the best book for me, and it was, yeah, I'm pretty sure I cried during that. I think I cried during Reading Recorder by Kathy McCrum. Oh, I forgot the book. Oh, it's probably good. That I would have put on the book that disappointed me the most, but it's by a small author, so I forgot it. So, sorry, you'll never know. I'm just seeing all these books that I hated.
Well,
can they count?
While you continue looking, I'm going to say I really don't cry much in books. I think I probably did when I first read The Hobbit, probably when I first read Lord of the Rings as well, but I don't really cry that much. The only time that water comes to my eyes is if I'm laying on my side for too long and it just starts dripping. So that's really my answer. It could be just about any book that I read physically.
I've got a couple here. A Man Called Ove by Frederick Bachman. I think I did cry during that one. The Story Writer by Lindsay A. Franklin. There was one plot line that really resonated with me. Catcher in the Rye made me think a lot, and I can't remember if that, guys, it's not abnormal for me to cry, so, and it could be totally unrelated to the book coming that I'm listening to or reading at the time too, but I feel like that one could have made me tear up once or twice. The Winter King made me cry. I do remember that. There was something in that made me cry. Mrs. Mike I cried in, which is my most recent one. And that was all. Question
10? Nope, question 11. What is one book that made you happy? One book. You can only pick one.
Okay, let's find a happy book. I'm gonna pick a reason. Because like good stories sometimes make you feel something that's not necessarily happiness. So it's hard to pick one that is like, oh, that one just made me feel.
I think that I will go with I would go with Recorder because that one did make me happy, but there's some, we've mentioned that several times, that I think I'll go with a different one, and that is Voice of War by Zach Argyle. This was just a fantasy book, first self-published fantasy book, so there's that as well. But it's the first book in a series, and I was really, really impressed with it. I do have a review for this one up, so you can go watch my review to hear my thoughts on it, but I was very happy listening to that book. I had a lot of fun with that one.
I'm gonna go with City of the Beasts. I did mention it earlier, but that one's pretty applicable. That one had a really strong family theme, which I loved, and just the whole story was really, it was so like otherworldly, but it wasn't. It was set in the Amazon, so it was our world, but it was just different, and it was really cool. That one made me happy. I want to read more Isabel Allende. Maybe she's my new author that I love. That question from earlier.
So the next question is one that we'll have to run around and do some searching for, because it is, what is the most beautiful book you have bought or received so far this year?
Okay, so I haven't, this is actually easy for me because I've bought so few books this year.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I have to go find one.
In fact, I think this is the only book I've bought since, like, that I've actually purchased this year. So because I had, my goal this year was to read all the books on my bookshelf and buy as few as possible, I actually stuck really heartily to that. I think I bought Catcher in the Rye and the short stories of Edgar Allan Poe at the thrift store because I couldn't pass them up. I'm giving away my book here. And then I got a couple for gifts, but I'm not going to count those. So aside from that, I think the only book I've purchased that I've received, because I have 2 in the mail that are coming in that I'm very excited for, and that would probably win this question, except I don't have them yet. And so it's I Must Betray You by Ruta Sepetys. Okay. But it also is really pretty. Has this beautiful hardback with the golden against the red, just a solid red cover. This would be a really pretty book to do, you know how people like deface books? This would be a pretty one to deface a book.
So I also have not bought or received a ton of books this year. There are a couple, and I like a lot of the covers, but because I haven't had to use this one for another answer yet.
There's pictures in this book. I didn't remember pictures.
Anyways, while she gushes over her book, I will continue talking about my book, and that is Talendor's Guest by Charles McGarry. This is one that I think I won a giveaway for this one, and I really enjoyed the book, but the cover specifically, I don't know how well you can see it with glare or whatnot. If it's really bad glare, I'll stick an image up. But it's got a really cool big dragon head on it, and I love dragons, and it's just a really cool book. Plus I like supporting fellow booktubers and smaller authors, so that's my choice for this one. And the last question, question 13, is what books do you need to read by the end of the year?
Okay, so same, I mentioned this before, my goal to read all the books on my bookshelf, I accomplished that goal, so I've been enjoying reading books from the library and stuff. I do have 2 on the way, and that is Coral by Sarah Ella and Vivid by Ashley Bustamante, so I'm going to say those two. And I have like my stack of library books over there, which I'm not going to mention, just because I like to read things before I talk about them most of the time, depending on the book and those in that category. So I'm going to say those two.
So the books that I'm going to say are, well, first off, I would like to get through book 6, I think, of Wheel of Time. Book 5 or 6 of Wheel of Time. So I'm currently reading book 4, so I need to read book 5 and book 6 at least before the end of the year. Those are the ones that I really want to get through. Other than that, I will have a list up here of books, because hopefully, well, that video will go up before this one, and those are the books that Kate picked for me to read in quarter 3. I'm not going to try and tell you what all the books are, but those are the books that I will choose. And that is all the questions for this book tag. This is a lot. I enjoyed doing it this way a lot more than we did it last year, so this was really fun. Thank you guys for watching in Erudite Adventure. This is probably not going to be fun to edit, but that's alright. We post videos every Monday and Thursday. We have our social medias linked in the description down below.
Thanks for watching, guys. Stay warm.